The room smells like sweat and ink. Voices are raised, papers slam the table. Outside, a nation holds its breath and docente, even know it. This is the part history textbooks skip, the moments when America almost slipped. Not from invasion, not from plague, but from the choices of the men at the top. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The United States didn't survive because its presidents were flawless. It survived because somehow their worst decisions didn't fully land. The ink on the Constitution is barely dry. The country is fragile, nervous, paranoid. John Adams is president smart, principled, and deeply afraid. France and Britain are tearing Europe apart. America tries to stay neutral, but neutrality feels like standing between two drunk giants swinging fists. French ships seize American vessels. The press explodes. Rumors fly. The public panics. Adams snaps. Congress passes the Alien and Sedition Acts. 4 laws, 1 idea: silence, dissent. Criticize the government, jail. Write something mean about the president, jail. Be a foreigner who seems dangerous, gone. The country that just fought a revolution over free speech suddenly criminalizes it. Here's the kicker. Adams signs it anyway. The backlash is immediate. States talk about ignoring federal law. Jefferson whispers about nullification. The nation fractures along ideological seams still visible today. If Adams had pushed harder, if arrests escalated, if the military enforced it aggressive, the First Amendment might have died in its grip. Instead, Adams hesitates. Prosecutions slow. The laws expire. America exhales. Barely. The White House is quiet. Too quiet. Abraham Lincoln has been president for weeks. 7 states have already walked out. Fort Sumter is surrounded. War is coming, whether Lincoln wants it or not. Here's the thing no one likes to say. Lincoln breaks the Constitution. Repeatedly, he suspends habeas corpus, lets the military arrest civilians, shuts down newspapers. Why? Because Washington is almost encircled. Maryland is a tinderbox. Lose it, and the capital becomes an island inside enemy territory. Lincoln makes a gamble, like pulling the emergency brake on a speeding train, knowing it might derail. If Congress had rebelled harder, if the Supreme Court forced the issue, if the Army split loyalties, the Union could have collapsed before the first major battle. Instead, the gamble works. The war drags on. The Constitution survives, bent and scuffed, but intact. Not because the system was gentle, because it was flexible enough not to snap. The war is over. The victory parade's done. And Woodrow Wilson is missing, not politically, physically. Wilson suffers a massive stroke. Half his body shuts down. His speech slurs. His mind fades in and out. The President of the United States cannot govern. So his wife, Edith Wilson, steps in. No election. No constitutional process. Just a locked bedroom and a quiet filter on information. Cabinet members don't know how bad it is. Congress isn't told. Foreign leaders are left guessing who's actually in charge. This goes on for months. At a moment when revolutions spread across Europe, labor unrest shakes American cities, and the post-war order is being written. The presidency is effectively vacant. If a foreign crisis had hit full force, if a general tested American resolve, if the deception cracked the chaos, could have been catastrophic. Instead, the world stays oddly calm, and America never officially admits what happened. Now let's talk about the summer of 1974. Richard Nixon is cornered. The tapes exist. The lies are exposed. Impeachment is no longer theoretical. Inside the White House, the mood turns dark. Nixon drinks, paces, rants. He talks about enemies, betrayal, history. Here's the part that chills historians. Inside the military, there's credible concern Nixon might do something irreversible, launch a strike, escalate Vietnam, use force to change the narrative. So the Secretary of Defense quietly gives an order. Any command involving nuclear weapons must be cleared with him first. Think about that. An unelected official inserts himself between the president and the nuclear boot. That's not in the Constitution. That's not a law. That's fear. If Nixon had pushed, if the chain of command fractured, if loyalty beat restraint, Watergate might have ended with mushroom clouds instead of a resignation speech. Instead, Nixon steps down. The system limps forward. Another near miss, quietly shelved. But maybe the closest call comes during the Cold War. October 1962. Cuba. Missiles. 13 days. John F. Kennedy sits in the Oval Office staring at grainy photos of Soviet launch sites 90 miles from Florida. The military wants airstrikes. Generals want invasion. Some want immediate escalation. Kennedy hesitates. He knows something the public doesn't. If America bombs Cuba, Soviet commanders on the ground might launch anyway without asking Moscow. The situation is like a room full of gasoline and flickering matches. Juan, loud, Morvi, and everything goes up. So Kennedy chooses a blockade. A slow squeeze. A move that looks weak until it works. Barely. A single Soviet submarine cut off from communication nearly fires a nuclear torpedo. One officer refuses to authorize it. One man, sweating in the dark, changes history. If Kennedy had gone with the generals, if that officer had agreed, there wouldn't be a United States to argue about today. So what does this all mean? It means America wasn't protected by destiny, divine favor, or flawless leadership. It survived because of pauses, doubts, hesitations, people choosing not to push one step further. The presidency isn't a throne. It's a pressure cooker, and every once in a while, it rattles hard enough to remind us how thin the walls really are. History didn't bury these moments by accident. They're uncomfortable. They mess with the myth. But if you want to understand why the system still stands crooked, loud, unfinished, you have to stare at the moments it almost didn't. And if that kind of history keeps you watching, you already know what to do.